Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of fascinating sources and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, helping you get well-informed fast.
That's the goal.
Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a mind that really shattered expectations, a literary enigma whose ideas continue to provoke profound thought long after his time. Get ready, because familiar concepts like freedom, maybe reality, even truth, they're about to be turned inside out and explored in ways you might never have considered before.
That's right. Our subject today is the prolific and, well, profoundly mysterious Portuguese literary figure Fernando Pessoa.
Pessoa.
Yeah. And what's truly remarkable about him and what makes his body of work such an ongoing discovery is that much of his most profound writing, we're talking literally tens of thousands of manuscript pages, was discovered only after his death.
It's incredible.
It really is. Imagine like a hidden treasure chest, just brimming with poems, short stories, philosophical musings, even diaries, all just waiting there to be uncovered decades later. It's a body of work so vast and complex that even today, nearly 90 years after he passed away, new texts are still being brought to light, transcribed, published. It constantly reshapes our understanding of his genius.
That discovery alone is just such a fascinating starting point, isn't it? This idea of a hidden literary treasure still being pieced together.
Absolutely.
And among this vast, rich treasure, we find this unique selection of what people often call his philosophical tales. Now, these aren't your typical neatly wrapped up narratives.
Yeah, not at all.
Some of them can seem a bit unfinished, maybe, or lack a strictly linear structure, but the philosophical depth in them is just immense.
Oh, definitely.
They raise these truly profound questions about life, death, human spirituality, things that resonate across time, across cultures.
Exactly. And our mission today is to try and extract the most important insights, maybe some surprising facts from these works. We want to offer you a bit of a shortcut to understanding Pessoa's unique and often, frankly, startling perspectives.
A shortcut through Pessoa, I like that.
We're particularly focusing on a selection from The Anarchist Banker and Other Philosophical Tales, a collection that, as its title suggests right away, is just brimming with these central paradoxes.
Right. Just hearing The Anarchist Banker, it immediately makes you stop and think, how come those two ideas, anarchy and high finance, how can they possibly coexist within a single coherent philosophy?
It's a head-scratcher.
It certainly sets the stage for a kind of mind-bending journey, doesn't it? So prepare yourself. We're about to embark on a deep dive into deconstructing some deeply held ideas, challenging perceptions. This material is incredibly rich, it's surprising, it's thought-provoking, and we can't wait to unpack it with you.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so to begin, let's unpack one of the most provocative pieces, The Anarchist Banker.
The big one.
Yeah. This particular story just drops us right into this compelling conversation. It's between the narrator and this highly successful, almost archetypal figure of capital. A great merchant and notable speculator. Rich guy.
The epitome of it.
But here's the twist. This incredibly wealthy man paradoxically declares himself an anarchist.
Right out of the gate.
It's just an immediate jolt, right?
Yeah.
It challenges our preconceived notions of both of those terms completely.
And that initial shock, that contradiction, it's absolutely key to the story's brilliance. The banker doesn't try to redefine anarchist in some, obscure academic way.
No hedging.
No, he explicitly states he uses it in its common, everyday sense. Someone who believes in absolute individual freedom, the absence of government, coercive power, all that.
Standard definition.
Standard definition.
Yeah.
Yet he claims to be more anarchist in practice than those often associated with the label, like the types with bombs and labor unions he sort of dismisses.
Right.
His journey to this radical philosophy began, maybe ironically, maybe not, from a place of profound social conscience. He says he was born into the working class, was deeply revolted by social injustice, and that early experience became the crucible in which his unique, radical philosophy was forged.
So his central thesis, then, is that true anarchism isn't just some abstract theory you debate in a cafe or read in a political treatise.
No, it's practical.
It's a way of life, a practical approach to existence, to liberation. And for him, the true evils, the things that really bind humanity, are what he calls social fictions.
Social fictions, yeah.
Now, these aren't just abstract concepts for him. He defines them as anything that isn't natural, anything that's an artificial construct imposed by society. He points to things like money, the state, the very concept of a family organized religion, Those are his examples.
They're big ones.
Yeah. These are, in his view, the artificial constructs that create hierarchies,
Mm-hmm.
enforce conformity, and ultimately they enslave us, preventing us from living truly free lives. They aren't inherent to human nature or the natural world, he says.
And he argues with this brutally simple, almost cynical logic that if the ultimate goal is a truly free society, then you cannot tolerate any intermediate states, no revolutionary dictatorships, no matter how noble their stated intentions might be.
Okay, why not?
Well, his reasoning is rooted in this deeply pessimistic yet maybe historically accurate view. Any revolutionary regime, regardless of its initial good intentions or the purity of its ideals, inevitably devolves. It just transforms
That's totally.
into a military despotism or some new, equally oppressive form of tyranny. He points to historical examples that really drive this home. He reminds us of, say, the Roman Empire, which, despite all its political upheavals and aspirations for a republic, ultimately descended into autocratic imperial rule.
Right.
Or, maybe more famously, the rise of Napoleon after the French Revolution. It demonstrates how a movement aimed at liberty can ironically give birth to a new form of authoritarianism.
That's a powerful parallel to draw. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does history, seen through this lens, just show us this repeating cycle of power structures, where even when we try to break free from one form of control, we just end up reasserting some new, maybe equally insidious form of constraint?
It's a deeply pessimistic view, certainly.
Yeah, but compelling. A compelling observation on the nature of human collective action.
Indeed. And the banker, he initially pursued a more traditional, well, albeit intense, solution for achieving societal change: widespread propaganda.
Propaganda, how so?
He believed that if you could sufficiently predispose everyone's minds toward freedom, weaken their resistance to established norms, make the social revolution quick and easy, then you wouldn't need a dictatorship.
A revolution of consciousness first.
Exactly. It sounds almost utopian, this idea, right? But then comes the pivotal leap in logic, the moment where his thinking just diverges dramatically from conventional anarchist thought.
Okay, what happened? What did you realize?
What the banker realized next completely shifted his approach. He observed that even within small, supposedly enlightened anarchist groups, these are groups committed to shared ideals of freedom, a new tyranny arose.
A tyranny within the anarchist group.
Precisely. People, despite sharing the same overarching goals, would inevitably start imposing on each other or subtly limiting one another's freedom.
How? Like, what did that look like?
Well, they'd create unwritten rules, maybe internal hierarchies or unspoken expectations that, while perhaps well-intentioned, maybe aimed at collective efficiency, ultimately curtailed individual liberty within the group.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't necessarily overt oppression, but this gradual, insidious erosion of personal autonomy. Group pressure, maybe?
Got it.
And his profound conclusion from this observation was crucial. This tyranny didn't stem from those social fictions he so despised, because the groups had supposedly rejected those.
Right, they were anarchists.
Exactly. Instead, it came from something deeper, something within human nature itself, what he called a misuse, a perversion of natural qualities.
Wow. So human nature is the problem.
That's his take. He speculated that humanity's long, long history under various tyrannical regimes, centuries of oppression, had somehow ingrained these tendencies into our very being. It made us inherently prone to recreating power dynamics, even when we consciously try to dismantle them.
That is a very cynical take on human nature.
Deeply cynical.
So his shocking, truly radical resolution was to abandon collective action altogether. He states, we must all work toward the same end, but separately.
Separately.
Separately. This is truly the core of his individualist anarchism. He saw that working together, organizing collectively, inevitably created this new tyranny, this new set of impositions, even if it was just the tyranny of groupthink or unspoken social pressure. Whereas working in isolation allowed each person to create and maintain their own personal freedom without directly interfering with others, and crucially, without having others interfere with them.
Right. No group dynamics, no friction.
Exactly. And this is where his, let's say, counterintuitive strategy regarding money comes into play.
Yes. Money. Because for the banker, the tyranny of money was the most significant, the most pervasive social fiction of his time.
Made sense back then, still does maybe.
Absolutely. It dictated lives, limited choices, fundamentally constrained individual freedom, trapping people in cycles of labor and dependence. But how do you fight something so omnipresent, something so deeply embedded in the fabric of society?
Yeah, what's the plan?
His counterintuitive method was not to run from it, not to reject it and live outside the system in poverty, which he saw as just another form of enslavement to circumstance.
Good.
Instead, his solution was to acquiring it in such quantities that you no longer feel its influence.
Get rich. Get really rich.
Get obscenely rich. He reasoned that poverty bound you to the system through need, but excessive wealth could free you from its dictates. If you have enough money, money doesn't control you anymore.
This is, I mean, it's a master stroke of twisted yet strangely pragmatic logic, isn't it?
It really is. He's not seeking to destroy social fictions entirely. He acknowledges that only a complete social revolution could potentially do that, and he's already dismissed the possibility of a non-tyrannical revolution.
Right, he gave up on that.
So instead, he finds a way to subjugate these fictions in relation to himself. He doesn't eliminate money from society, but he strategically frees himself from its control. By accumulating an overwhelming amount of it, he effectively neutralizes its power over his own life.
He flips the script entirely.
Yeah.
He uses the system's own leverage, points against itself for his personal liberation.
Exactly. This truly is the ultimate expression of his individualist anarchism. He achieves his personal freedom by fighting the system using the system's own weapons.
And he's honest about how he does it.
Remarkably candid, he admits to engaging in speculation, financial sophistry, even unfair competition.
Okay, so not exactly ethical memes.
Not at all. His controversial justification is that in fighting what he deems immoral fictions, one shouldn't care about the means. If the system itself is inherently corrupt and immoral, then playing by its corrupt rules, even immorally, is justified if it leads to personal liberation from that very system.
Using the enemy's tools against them.
That's precisely his argument.
But it's crucial to clarify the scope of his method, right?
Sure.
As you said, he only achieves freedom for himself.
Yes, absolutely. Critical point. He hasn't eliminated tyranny from the world. He simply rendered it inactive for his own individual existence. He's opted out of its pervasive control through sheer economic power and cunning.
Right. Yeah. The world outside his personal bubble is still stuck.
Exactly. The world outside his personal sphere remains subject to those social fictions.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is the fundamental questioning of freedom's very nature and the efficacy of political action itself.
Definitely.
The banker argues that true freedom isn't some distant collective goal you wait for society to achieve through a grand revolution. Instead, it's about transforming your own immediate personal relationship with social constraints.
It's internal liberation.
Yeah, it's about internal liberation from external forces, an individual triumph over the system, rather than waiting for some utopian external restructuring for universal internal liberation. It suggests that maybe the greatest battles for freedom are fought within one's own life, with the tools available.
It's a total inversion of common anarchist logic, where capital accumulation, especially at the level he describes, is usually seen as the absolute antithesis of liberation.
Right. Anarchists typically want to dismantle capital, viewing it as a primary tool of oppression.
But Pessoa's banker argues it's the only way to truly be free from money's shackles in the existing system. He's not beholden to it because he controls it, rather than being controlled by it.
He literally buys his way out of the tyranny of money, not just its material constraints, but its psychological grip too.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the broader picture, it's a profound, almost cynical reflection on the hypocrisy and maybe inherent inefficiency of many collective movements. The banker suggests that these movements, despite their revolutionary aims, often end up reproducing the very power structures and forms of control they claim to destroy.
Because of that human nature thing again.
Precisely because human nature, burdened by its history, is prone to hierarchy and imposition as he sees it. They fall prey to the same human tendencies towards power dynamics, even if it's subconscious.
So in the banker's eyes, he stands as the true anarchist because he is practical, lucid, and effective.
Yeah, he sees himself as the pragmatic one.
He's achieved tangible freedom for himself, unlike those he dismisses as merely theoretical, or his word, stupid, for chasing unattainable collective ideals that always fall short.
He's a pragmatist in a world of idealists, even if his methods are, let's say, morally ambiguous.
Yeah, deeply ambiguous.
And this perspective, it still resonates incredibly strongly today, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Think of how many ideologies and social movements across the political spectrum seem to get lost in their own internal contradictions, or how often they struggle with internal power dynamics that mirror the external ones they're fighting.
Yeah, the infighting, the purity test.
Exactly. The banker's critique feels remarkably timeless in its examination of human tendencies within any group structure.
This definitely raises an important question for you, the listener.
Hmm.
What does it truly mean to be free in a world full of social fictions? Is it a collective ideal, a societal transformation? Or is it, as the banker suggests, an intensely personal battle?
And how far would you be willing to go? What means would you consider justified to achieve that ultimate personal freedom? It's a tough question.
It really is. Okay, so from the radical pragmatism of our anarchist banker, we're now going to shift gears pretty dramatically.
Big shift.
Big shift. We're stepping into the more mystical, dreamlike, and profoundly philosophical side of Pessoa's work. We're journeying into the devil's hour, and in the forest of estrangement, tales that really blur the lines between waking and dreaming, reality and myth.
Yeah. The Devil's Hour plunges us into this almost surreal encounter. The story centers on Maria's journey. She experiences what seems to be a dream, meeting the devil while returning home from a masquerade ball.
Okay, the setting itself is interesting, that liminal space between the party and home night.
Exactly. It amplifies the ambiguity that just hangs over the entire narrative. Was it truly a dream, a hallucination,
Yeah.
or something more profoundly real in its unreality? We're never quite sure.
And what an unconventional devil this is.
Oh, yeah?
This isn't the pitchfork-wielding, cliched embodiment of evil we usually see in popular culture.
Not at all. Pessoa's devil is deeply philosophical even, melancholic, a figure burdened by his own existence and purpose.
Melancholic devil, I like that. How does he define himself?
Well, he defines himself not by what he is in a traditional sense, but more by his function. He calls himself an ironist, the god of imagination, and quite profoundly, the spirit that creates without creating.
Creates without creating. What does that even mean?
I think it suggests a being whose influence is more about possibility, about conceptualization, rather than tangible creation, maybe shaping the very thoughts that lead to creation.
Interesting.
He also describes himself as the eternal different, the eternal postponed, the superfluous of the abyss.
Wow, heavy titles.
Right. It paints this picture of a being existing in the liminal spaces, the unrealized potentials, the what-ifs of existence. He's like the god of all that could be but isn't, constantly deferring full manifestation.
So he's the god of the maybe.
Kind of. And what's really fascinating is how he defines himself not as one who denies, which is the traditional understanding of Satan as the adversary.
Right, the denier.
But as the spirit that contradicts.
Contradicts. How's that different?
Well, he draws this crucial distinction between two types of contradiction. Contradicting ideas, he claims, is inherently beneficial.
Beneficial? How?
It leads to disillusionment, but not in a negative sense of despair. More like a shedding of false certainties, a breaking down of old, rigid mental constructs. This process, he argues, opens the mind to new possibilities and ultimately to dreams, which then connect us to the world in a deeper, more symbolic way.
So intellectual friction leads to growth.
That seems to be the idea. It's through challenging assumptions that new understanding, even a fantastical or spiritual one, can emerge. But contradicting acts, he cautions, that's different. That is to hinder the turning of the world.
So disrupting practical life is bad, but disrupting thoughts is good.
That's his view. It implies practical obstruction. Disrupting the flow of life and progress is his negative function. This is such a refreshing and unexpected vision of the devil, isn't it? He's less an agent of pure destruction and more a necessary catalyst for intellectual and spiritual evolution.
So he's less about temptation and more about intellectual friction, a kind of necessary philosophical irritant.
That's a great way to put it. He argues that the world exists precisely because it opposes something, and he is that opposing force.
It's a profound paradox. If he didn't exist, if there was no antithesis, nothing would exist at all.
That's his claim. He is the negation that validates existence, the necessary shadow that defines the light, the counterpoint without which the symphony of reality would fall silent.
It sounds almost Hegelian. that idea of the essential antithesis.
It really does, doesn't it? That without opposition, there's no dialectical progression, no reality as we know it. The devil, in Pessoa's hands, becomes this necessary friction in the gears of existence, the catalyst for movement and meaning through opposition. He's not simply evil, he's essential.
Okay, so if he's this essential force, what are his magic weapons? Does he have powers?
He tells Maria they are music, moonlight, and dreams.
Music, moonlight, and dreams. Not exactly fire and brimstone.
No. The very elements of the intangible, the emotional, the subconscious. Things that bypass rational thought and speak directly to the soul. This choice of weapons says so much about the nature of his power, which lies not in brute force or overt evil, but in subtle influence over perception, imagination, inner reality.
The tools of illusion, beauty, internal transformation.
Exactly. And he then offers this unifying, yet profoundly demystifying view on faith. He argues that all religions, despite their apparent opposition and doctrinal differences, pagans and Christians, for example, are merely different symbols of the same reality.
So all paths lead to the same place, essentially.
Kind of. He says they express the same emotion in different terms, thinking differently about the same intuition. This insight strips away the superficial disagreements of dogma and points to a deeper, shared human experience of the divine or the mysterious.
Like different languages trying to describe the same thing.
Precisely. Different hieroglyphs, maybe, attempting to describe the same ineffable truth. A truth that is perhaps beyond full human comprehension.
And this uncertainty, does it stop there? Or does it go higher?
It goes higher. The devil claims that this entire universe, with its God and its devil, is a hieroglyph eternally to be deciphered. It's a cosmic riddle that humanity is perpetually trying to solve and perhaps never fully will.
Wow.
He even says that God himself doubts if he is awake and doesn't know who the true chief of the manifest order is.
Even God isn't sure.
According to this devil, it highlights this profound, almost cosmic existential weariness, where even the divine is caught in a web of uncertainty, questioning its own existence and authority. It's truly a disquieting thought, suggesting chaos or doubt even at the highest levels of being.
That's unsettling.
It is. The devil's conversation with Maria just delves so deep into the nature of reality, nothingness, desire, memory, constantly challenging conventional definitions. And there's this incredibly poignant moment when Maria feels a great pity for this devil.
Pity for the devil.
Yeah, because he describes himself in such tragic terms. The absolute lord of the interstice and the in-between of what in life is not life. The god of worlds that never came to be.
The god of potential, but unfulfilled potential.
Exactly. He's a being of unfulfilled potential, of the roads not taken, the shadows of possibility. A truly melancholic and tragic figure who governs the realm of the not quite real.
And the ending of the story, you mentioned ambiguity.
Oh, the ending is a twist. The devil abruptly reveals that their conversation never truly happened because he is just a poor myth.
So it was all a dream. Or he's lying.
We don't know. It seems to invalidate the entire encounter, yet the profound impact of this mystical exchange seems to be unmistakably passed on. Maria's son, born 6 months later, describes dreams that remarkably resemble the devil's journey and his distinctive red figure.
Whoa! So the idea lived on.
It seems so. It raises this compelling question about the nature of reality and the enduring power of ideas.
Is Pessoa suggesting that what we dream or imagine or even just conceive of as ideas has a deep and lasting reality, even if it's not material or conventionally factual?
It really feels like that's what he's exploring. It's a testament to Pessoa's mastery of that delicate line between the real and the illusory, between consciousness and the subconscious. He challenges our very definition of what constitutes reality, suggesting that myth and imagination can have tangible, perhaps inheritable effects, influencing our perception, maybe even our being.
And this connects to the other tale you mentioned, In the Forest of Estrangement.
Yes, exactly. This piece echoes many of the themes we just discussed, particularly the fluidity of reality and the nature of existence. It's essentially an existential monologue. It seamlessly blends sleep and wakefulness, the physical body and the incorporeal self.
How does it do that?
Well, it merges the tangible bedroom where the narrator lies with this metaphysical forest where his mind wanders. It's an exploration of sensation and reason. It feels a bit reminiscent of philosophical debates, maybe even Descartes' meditations on consciousness and existence.
Like, I think, therefore I am.
Sort of, but it's infused with this pervasive undertone of unreality and deep melancholy. The narrator describes vivid, almost hallucinatory sensations, like the feeling of his body as a distant object, his thoughts detaching and floating in a vast, empty space.
A sense of dissociation.
Very much so. Life seems to have no intrinsic purpose in this narrative. Existence itself is constantly questioned, reduced to a series of fleeting perceptions within an overarching void. The speaker feels himself dissolving, losing definition, almost becoming one with the nothingness he perceives.
So what's the broader takeaway here? It sounds quite bleak.
It is bleak, but also profound. It makes you wonder, are we merely dreamers inside a greater dream? What if our perception of reality is just a fragment of a much larger, more elusive truth? A shifting landscape shaped by our consciousness, or perhaps the consciousness of a cosmic God who is himself dreaming.
It's profoundly disorienting, yet maybe strangely liberating, that thought.
Perhaps. And Pessoa's stark question posed within these tales just lingers. Is life, in the end, just a vacuum within the vacuum? Nothings that revolve like satellites in the useless orbit of nothing at all.
Heavy stuff. And he doesn't give answers.
No easy answers, or really answers at all. Instead, he offers this invitation to confront these deepest, most uncomfortable questions about our own existence and the nature of everything around us. It's an intellectual and spiritual challenge, a profound push for the reader, for you, to delve into your own existential queries rather than just accepting prepackaged answers.
Okay, wow. After diving into those abstract and mystical realms of Pessoa, let's pivot again. Let's explore his engagement with political and social realities, often with a surprisingly sharp satirical edge.
Right, back to the more grounded world, but still with that critical eye.
We're heading to At Evaristo's Pharmacy, which sounds like a really insightful and darkly humorous piece that offers a timeless critique of political systems.
It really is. This story is set on a specific date, April 18th, 1925, against the turbulent backdrop of a military revolt in Portugal. So very specific context.
And the setting is just a pharmacy.
Just a pharmacy, yeah. A seemingly mundane setting, yet it becomes the stage for this heated debate between two characters. Mendes, who's a Democratic Republican, and Gomes Pipa, who is a staunch monarchist.
Ah, opposing sides.
Exactly. Their discussion centers on the legitimacy of two major political shifts. The 1910 revolution, which established the Portuguese Republic, versus the legitimacy of the more recent military uprising that was still unsettling the political landscape at that time.
So it's a microcosm of the political instability that plagued Portugal during that period.
Perfectly put. It's a brilliant setup for exposing the nuances, the self-deceptions, the hypocrisies of political discourse, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you said Gomes Pipa, the monarchist, is the star debater.
Oh, undisputed. He's a truly masterful rhetorician who skillfully dismantles Mendes's logic with precision, wit, and a, let's say, healthy dose of cynical realism.
How does he do it?
Well, he immediately challenges Mendes's premise that the 1910 revolution was some kind of national impulse or an imperative mandate of the nation.
He doesn't buy the will of the people argument.
Not for a second. He argues that the sheer ease of its victory doesn't automatically prove its national character or widespread support. Especially, and he emphasizes this with a sort of cynical wink, in a country historically characterized by weak discipline and poor governance.
Meaning it was easy to overthrow the old system anyway.
Exactly. In such a context, a small, well-organized group can easily overthrow a weak government, regardless of actual popular will.
Okay, that makes sense.
He even, quite humorously, compares Mendes's reasoning, the idea that victory justifies itself, to the German philosopher Hegel.
Ah, Hegel again.
Yes. The idea that whatever prevails, by virtue of its triumph, proves its inherent rightness. Gomes Pipa just hilariously refutes this. He points out the absurdity of claiming legitimacy simply because a coup was successful. He suggests that by that logic, any successful street gang could claim to be the legitimate government.
Good point.
Furthermore, he systematically refutes the Republic's legitimacy based on the supposed spontaneous acceptance of the country over time.
How does he refute that?
By simply pointing to the constant stream of revolutions, counter-revolutions, and political upheavals that plagued the First Portuguese Republic during its existence. He basically says, if there was genuine acceptance, why was there such perpetual instability?
Yeah, the facts didn't seem to support the claim.
Right. The very definition of a republic at that time in Portugal seemed to be just a series of short-lived, often violent transitions of power.
But perhaps the sharpest part of the discussion, the really biting critique that feels relevant even today, is when Gomes Pipa dismantles what he calls the electoral justification of liberal regimes.
Ah, the critique of democracy itself.
Yeah, he lays bare the inherent flaws in the democratic process as it was practiced, not just in Portugal, but maybe in many early 20th century democracies.
Okay, what's his argument there?
He argues that elections, even those that are morally clean, free from overt corruption, are fundamentally, organically, a political swindle.
A swindle, strong word.
Very strong.
Yeah.
And his reasoning is incredibly detailed and cynical. He shows this deep understanding of political machinery. He explains that elections are inherently expensive. They require massive amounts of money for propaganda, campaigning, organization.
Still true today.
Right. This financial barrier inevitably means they are dominated by political parties, which in turn are controlled by a very small number of individuals, maybe 3 or 4, or even just one powerful figure pulling the strings behind the scenes.
The party bosses.
Exactly. The voter, he contends, doesn't truly know as the candidate. They merely choose from a pre-selected set of options presented by these parties. The real power, therefore, remains concentrated at the top of the party structure, not with the individual voter.
So the illusion of choice masks a deeper lack of real agency for the voter.
That's his point. So it's a hypocritical and cowardly dictatorship, as he puts it.
Wow.
Because the responsibility for governance and its failures gets diffused across the vast, anonymous mass of the party and the electorate, which ironically allows the actual leaders to act with impunity.
Because no single person is truly accountable.
Exactly. Because no one individual is solely responsible for a policy or its outcome, no one can be truly held accountable. It's a system where power is exercised, but responsibility is constantly evaded.
That's a sharp critique.
And with biting irony, Gomes Pipa suggests that the Republic, despite claiming to be this new dawn, could really claim continuity with the old monarchy in its way of governing. And he makes it devastatingly clear what he means by that.
Incompetent.
In its utter incompetence, its constant instability, and its rampant corruption. He paints this picture of a change in name, maybe, but not in fundamental character.
Ouch. This is a moment of pure comedic genius mixed with some really incisive social critique.
Totally. This story, beyond just providing a snapshot of Portugal's political turbulence in the 1920s, serves as this timeless commentary on the nature of power, legitimacy, and the practical failings of democracy when theory meets reality.
Yeah, it really asks us to look beyond the stated ideals of any political system and examine its actual operation and its outcomes. What stands out to you about these critiques of political systems, even thinking about today in our own contemporary landscape?
It's quite striking how relevant it still feels, isn't it?
It really is.
The questions about genuine representation, the influence of money in politics, the accountability of leaders, they resonate deeply. And Pessoa's versatility, it just truly shines through in these philosophical tales. He also shows us his lighter, more humorous side and his pragmatic ability to adapt as a writer in some other short stories, too.
Absolutely. Take A Great Portuguese, for instance. It's a wonderful example of Pessoa's popular wit.
Okay, what's that one about?
It tells the tale of Manuel Perez Vigario, this character who cunningly escapes a massive debt by using counterfeit bills, and then feigning drunkenness as a perfect alibi.
Brilliant.
Manuel is depicted as this man of the people, relying on quick thinking and street smarts rather than any formal education or power. The story details his meticulous planning, how he gets the fake currency, carefully orchestrates his public display of intoxication, and then masterfully presents his alibi to the authorities.
A lovable rogue story.
Exactly. It's a delightful, almost folktale-like narrative that showcases the ingenuity of ordinary people against the rigid systems of law and finance, celebrated through a distinctly Portuguese lens. It's a testament to the idea that intelligence can manifest in many forms, not just the academic or the powerful.
That sounds fun. And you mentioned another one, the painting of the automobile.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is that this isn't a traditional short story at all, nor is it some deep philosophical treatise.
What is it then?
It's actually a piece of advertising copy that Pessoa wrote.
Advertising copy. Pessoa wrote ads.
He did. It was published in the Diário de Notícias newspaper in the 1920s and 30s. It was a commercial text designed to sell a service car painting.
Wow.
Yet even in this mundane task, Pessoa's distinctive voice, his meticulous attention to detail, and a subtle elegance just shine through. He describes the process with a certain relevance, almost elevating the act of painting an automobile to an art form, focusing on the precision and care involved.
That's amazing. So what's the broader insight we can draw from this versatility? from anarchist bankers to ad copy.
I think it vividly demonstrates Pessoa's incredible adaptability as a writer and a thinker. Here was this deeply philosophical mind grappling with existential questions, the nature of reality, profound political critiques.
Yeah.
But he was also a working writer who produced commercial texts. It showcases his pragmatic need to adapt to the times, maybe to earn a living, and to apply his linguistic and creative genius to whatever task was at hand, whether it was high art or commercial advertisement.
That's really interesting. It suggests that for Pessoa, maybe the act of writing itself, the crafting of language, was an end in itself, valuable regardless of the subject matter.
I think that's a great way to see it. Pessoa was a true master at moving between the sublime and the mundane, between the philosophical and the everyday.
He had this unique ability to take any subject, no matter how trivial it might seem on the surface, and turn it into an opportunity for profound reflection or clever social commentary or simply beautiful prose.
It's a testament not just to the breadth of his intellect, but to his sheer love and command of language and narrative.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've been on today. Seriously.
It really covered some ground.
From the mind-bending paradoxes of individualist anarchism and the anarchist banker, where personal freedom is achieved by, subverting the very systems meant to control it.
Using the master's tool.
Exactly. To the intricate dance of symbols and existential questions with that philosophical devil in the devil's hour. And finally, to the sharp political satire and impressive versatility displayed in tales like At Evaristo's Pharmacy. Fernando Pessoa truly keeps challenging us to think.
That's the enduring beauty of his work, I think. His unparalleled ability to make us question what we so often take for granted. His genius lies not just in the sheer complexity and multiplicity of his famous heteronyms, those distinct literary personalities he created.
There's a whole other deep dive, maybe.
Oh, definitely. But it's also in the profound depth and timeless relevance of these philosophical stories. They speak to universal human concerns, regardless of the specific historical context in which they were written.
He reminds us, doesn't he, that fundamental concepts like freedom, truth, even reality itself, they're far more fluid and complex than we typically imagine or maybe want to believe.
Absolutely. And that sometimes the seemingly mad ramblings of a successful banker or the melancholic confessions of a philosophical devil or even the cynical observations overheard in a pharmacy can reveal truths sharper and more piercing than any formal academic treatise could ever hope to convey. It's really a testament to the power of narrative to unveil complex ideas.
Fernando Pessoa stands as an undisputed national treasure of Portugal, whose true greatness was only fully revealed to the world after his death.
Yeah, it's still unfolding in a way. He remains, even today, this inexhaustible source of insight into the very core of the human condition and the intricate structures of our societies, continually inviting us to delve deeper into our own perceptions and beliefs.
And if today's deep dive has piqued your curiosity as much as it has ours,
Which hopefully it has.
we highly recommend you continue your own exploration by picking up The Anarchist Banker and Other Philosophical Tales. It's a literary experience that will definitely keep you thinking, pondering, and perhaps even questioning your own assumptions long after you've turned the final page.
It will stick with you. So to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you go about your day, if, as Pessoa suggests through his characters, our reality is full of these social fictions and maybe even vacuums within the vacuum, what current assumptions do you now find yourself questioning after hearing these ideas? And how might that fresh perspective shape your own ongoing pursuit of understanding and perhaps your personal definition of freedom?
Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.